The 2024 Ballon d'Or shortlist has been revealed, and it's an interesting list. A lot of people debating whether this is the worst running for the Ballon d'Or that we've ever seen. So let's go through some of the names, and whether this award will have the merit that it normally does this year. Starting off with Jude Bellingham, who actually throughout the season looked like he was maybe going to deserve this award. He absolutely smashed it in La Liga, cruising to the league title with Real Madrid, with 25 goal involvements in the league, and 9 more in the Champions League, and winning the double. But his performances tailed off towards the latter end of the season, culminating in some disappointing performances in the Euros for England. It looked like if England won the Euros, Jude Bellingham was winning the Ballon d'Or. Next is Hakan Çalhanoğlu, getting 16 goal involvements from midfield to help Inter Milan secure the title. Does that make him in the top 30 players in world football though? That's the question we're going to ask a lot today, which I think is perfectly summarised by Dani Carvajal being next on the list. If you asked anyone in the world whether Dani Carvajal should be close to winning the Ballon d'Or 2 weeks before the season ended, everyone would have laughed at you and said, what? No, he's washed. He's terrible nowadays. He played 3/4 of Real Madrid's games in the league. He did score a massive goal in the Champions League final and then proceeded to win the Euros with Spain and also have a pretty good tournament there. But come on. Next up, Ruben Diaz. Also played about 3/4 of Man City's games in the Premier League last season, but he's not at the level that he was when he first joined and was unbelievable. Next player up is Dovbyk. And this one, I think for a full individual season, is a bit more fair, because he was unbelievable for Girona. 24 goals and 8 assists in the league last season, guiding them to the Champions League. He was very good, and has now gone to Roma. Following him, we have a decent run. First up, Phil Foden, Premier League Player of the Season. Don't think much more needs to be said. He had his breakout year last year. Not in the sense of being the guy that now starts for Man City, but basically living up to the hype. All the time in previous years, you'd hear of the mini moments of magic from Foden, but it didn't lead to enough. Whereas last season, the goals, the assists, the clutch moments, he was amazing. As was Grimaldo, part of the flying Leverkusen team that was so close to an undefeated treble. But they did do the invincible Bundesliga season, which is crazy. Him and Frimpong on either side, what a signing he was. Coming in from the Portuguese league, he did have good numbers over there, but no one could expect just how influential he would be in the Xabi Alonso system in order for them to do so well last year. The next one's Haaland. Next player on the list, we've got Mats Hummels. He only played 25 games in the league for Dortmund last year, but he did have a decent Champions League run, as did Dortmund of course, and he did put in a massive block in the final. I genuinely believe that individual moments in these biggest games can single-handedly get you into the list of the top 30 or whatever for the Ballon d'Or, which is a bit crazy. Harry Kane, a very just recipient of a nomination right here. He had an unbelievable season after transferring finally away from Tottenham to Bayern Munich, scoring a ton of goals, but not winning anything because that's what happens with Harry Kane. However, if he had managed to win some trophies along the way, maybe he'd be winning the Ballon d'Or, because unfortunately, an individual award nearly always gets given to someone whose team could have even carried them in some tournaments. Cough, cough. Modric a few years ago. But Harry Kane, maybe if Bayern had ended up winning the league and if England had won the Euros, he would have won this, even with the exact same numbers, because that's just how it works. Our next player is one that I think is on here more so because of the fact that he's done with football. So Toni Kroos retired after the Euros, and I think that pretty much, because he is a legend of the game and is an amazing player, he had a decent season with Real Madrid. Again, it's not like he's getting 20 assists and absolutely dominating midfield in every game, but he is performing well. But there were years gone by in the past where you would have to get that crazy amount of goal involvements or just be this insanely dominant force in order to get close to this award. Ademola Lookman is nominated for the Ballon d'Or, an ex-Leicester City player Who would have thought it? He had a good season for Atalanta. He did get a good amount of goal involvement. But to put it simply, if he didn't score the hat-trick in the final of the Europa League in order to end that unbeaten run for Leverkusen, he doesn't get close to this, does he? So this is what I'm talking about. One individual match can genuinely be the difference between you being ranked 100th in the world or like 25th. Does that make much sense? Next is the only goalkeeper on this list, Emi Martinez. Does he deserve to be there over someone like Alisson? Is he better than Alisson? I wouldn't say so. However, Alisson did spend some of last season injured. Does that mean that Martinez should be in the Ballon d'Or rankings ahead of some other keepers worldwide? Like Courtois, Magnan, etc.? I don't know. Whereas the other Martinez, Lautaro, was amazing last season. Not just at club level, but finally, he didn't bottle it for the Argentina team. A bit like Higuain in the past that would always be the scapegoat because he would miss those big chances. Oh, the 2014 World Cup final, for example. Lautaro didn't seem to be able to hit a Ballon d'Or for Argentina, but he was key in the Copa America. So he had a fantastic season and thoroughly deserves to be in this list. And then next is Mbappe. I'm not even putting a picture on the screen. It's Mbappe. He's going to be in there. Next in the list, Martin Odegaard, who I actually thought was worse this season just gone than the one before. So I don't really know. I really like Odegaard as a player. He's actually one of my favourites to watch in the Premier League. But based on the season's performance, I'm not too sure. Dani Olmo is in this list for the Ballon d'Or because of the Euros, and that's it really. He got 9 goal involvements in only 21 games that he played in the league, but then did have good performances in the Euros for Spain. It's frustrating because whilst Dani Olmo is a great player, you'd think that performances in that one tournament wouldn't be enough for you to go up, a bit like Lookman, so high in the ratings compared to your full season. It's a bit different if you got a 10 out of 10 match rating and scored a hat-trick in every single game to win the Euros. But is this a little generous? He started his life at Barca pretty well, though. Cole Palmer. Unreal season in the Prem, really, is all that needs to be said here. He is scoring a load of goals after being signed as pretty much a bit of a bench player for Man City, and then carrying Chelsea to not having a completely embarrassing season. People will level, he scored a lot of penalties, and yes, he did. However, I never really liked that argument, because if you are the penalty taker, that's your job. You're not going to miss them on purpose because it doesn't mean as much as a normal goal. He still did play very well throughout the season. And on an individual seasons basis, you can understand why he's rated this highly. Overall, as a player, it's probably premature to rank him anywhere near this high in the world, but based on the season itself, fine. Declan Rice, another Arsenal player getting in here despite bottling the league. They did come second and then come second again, I guess, in the Euros. Rice is a great player. There aren't that many better players in his position in the world. You could probably say Rodri, and once you get past that, you're on par with basically everybody else. He's sort of making a transition from a 6 to an 8 as maybe his permanent position, and it's actually working out okay because progressing the ball forward, he's actually doing quite well. So yeah, Rice is pretty good. Next is a huge contender to win the Ballon d'Or. Did I ever really think I'd be saying that about a defensive midfielder? Probably not. But that is more so because of the way that the award is balanced and won normally. It's like, oh wow, you scored a ton of goals and you won a couple of trophies. Yeah, you were the best player in the world. Doesn't matter if you were actually the most influential player in your team or country or whatever, you'll win it. Rodri has sort of changed that perception. I feel like, especially Premier League viewers will understand, Man City just need him. They look like such a more concrete team when he is in there. And you saw his ridiculous unbeaten streak and record with City with Rodri in the team. It was crazy. And not only is he a ridiculously good defensive midfielder in terms of winning the ball back getting in those tackles, but his progressive passing is really impressive, and as the years go on, he's getting even better when it comes to goal scoring and being involved in those massive, massive moments. I personally believe this man should win the Ballon d'Or because he is just that guy. He's that dominant. Again, I can't really believe I'm saying it about a defensive mid, but I feel like they deserve more recognition than they get. So, Rodri for me, I'd give it to him. Antonio Rudiger. One of those players that since leaving Chelsea, their fans actually regret having to get rid of. He's been really good for Real Madrid. And who knows, if Eder Militao hadn't got that ACL injury that he did after he signed, would Rudiger even still be at Madrid? Would the course of history have been changed massively? Maybe. But he is very, very good for them. Solid at the back and played a lot of games for them last season in both the League and the Champions League, where they win both. One of the more solid centre-backs that there is in world football right now. So, fair. Bukayo Saka is next up, and it seems fair, really. He is one of the best right-wingers that the world has right now. Salah as well, obviously. Maybe Rodrigo, who has controversially been left out of the top 30. And you've got Neymar and everyone like this saying that it's a disgrace that he's not in there. But Saka, amazing player. And he's still so young compared to the people that he's compared to day to day in the Premier League. He got even more room to grow and improve. He is obviously a mainstay in the Arsenal team. Key to them getting anywhere close to winning any trophies. So he is an amazing player, and I don't think anyone can really argue with him being in this list. And the same goes for the next man, Saliba. Also a very, very good player. One of the best centre-backs in the world right now. He was amazing last season, and a combination of him and Gabriel proved ridiculously hard to break down last year. So again, a worthy nomination. Our next player on the list is Fede Valverde. I actually think he's very, very underrated. He has played multiple positions for Real Madrid since signing, whether it's in midfield, defensive, box-to-box, or a lot of the time on the right wing. Whether that's filling in for injuries or just actually playing there because he's doing so well. Questions were always asked about what would happen at Real Madrid when the Modric, Kroos and Casemiro era ended. Well, Valverde, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Bellingham, I think they've got the answers to that question. And Valverde is probably one of the more underrated players that Real Madrid have. I feel like because he isn't getting a crazy amount of goal involvements, because he's not playing as a 10 or a forward in every single game, you won't see him in the headlines. But if you watch Real Madrid play, you will see how key he is to some of their best performances and best results. I like Valverde a lot. The other massive favourite for the Ballon d'Or this year is Vinicius Junior. Smashing it for Real Madrid. He was a guy that I watch a lot of La Liga. I watch a lot of Madrid and Barca because I've followed Barca for 2 decades now. And when Vini Jr. first broke through at Real Madrid, he was the definition of raw. When people describe players as that, his dribbling ability was amazing, but his end product, it was really bad. It was genuinely abysmal at times. His decision making and his finishing / assisting were nowhere near good enough. And it looked like maybe it would take a few years for him to grow and improve and nail that down, and then he could be amazing, because he had the pace and he had the dribbling ability. He's found it. And Vinny is now one of the most dangerous players on a football pitch in world football. And I think that he has a great chance of winning this, mainly because he is a forward. I feel like, yes, he is very, very good. And Real Madrid winning the league and the Champions League, he's a big part of it. Do I think that they would be able to achieve what they did without Vini compared to like Man City being as good as they are and Spain without Rodri? I think that's the question. Not just how good your season was, but how influential you are, how much of a difference maker you are, and everything like that. like, if Vini had had one of those seasons where he had 50 goal involvements or something like that, fair enough, right? But he did miss a chunk of games in the league, and he got 20 goal involvements, which is great. People will more so recognise him for what he did in the Champions League, because he did get 10 goal involvements there, including some big goals, I'm sure you'll remember. So, do I think that Vini deserves it over Rodri for those big moments? No. And I know it's controversial to say that maybe he doesn't deserve it, but maybe it's like a year too early, and we'll see what happens with Vini going forward, especially now with Mbappe at Real Madrid. But this is the big conversation. It's between those two this year. And I think, because of the way the Ballon d'Or normally works, you play for Real Madrid, you're a forward, you're scoring goals, I think he wins it. Vitinha is in the top 30 players in world football according to the Ballon d'Or nominations. He is good. Like, he is, I guess, one of the next generation of players coming through for PSG. You've got a few others in midfield as well. Fabian had a great Euros, which really put the spotlight on him. But Vitinha is a player that I don't exactly know what this has been based on. So I think this is one of those names in the list that is questionable. Nico Williams is next, and he is another one that, yes, great season, especially for a younger player, is now getting linked with all of the biggest teams in the world. But he's not in this list without the Euros. And again, it's how much weight you put on those shorter term, less game competitions than you do the entire rest of the season and stuff like that combined. So Nico Williams is obviously a very talented player. Does that automatically mean that he had one of the best 30 seasons in the world of football? Whereas one of the last few players, Florian Wirtz, definitely did. He was instrumental in Leverkusen being amazing. His incredible amount of goal involvements was huge for a player of his age and position on the pitch as well. It's not like he's playing up front. So he definitely deserves to be in this list. Do I think he'll come close to winning it? No. If he had put up those kind of numbers at something like a Real Madrid, then the answer would probably be yes, because that's just how the world of football works. But Wirtz is amazing, and whilst his Euros wasn't as impressive as his league season, I feel like Musiala took more of the shine at the Euros than Wirtz. He is a very, very good player, and you have to imagine, if someone nabs Xabi Alonso next summer from Leverkusen, he's going to try and take this man with him, because he was so key to the way that they attack, and if you watch Leverkusen, you'll see how much of the ball goes through him. And the exact same can be said about his teammate, Granit Xhaka, in the top 30 players in the world. Who would have ever thought it? Did he have one of the best 30 seasons in world football? I mean, maybe. He was really good. Really, really good. I don't know how much of Leverkusen a lot of people would have watched, but whenever you saw them, he was performing at a really high level. It felt like this is his, I guess, regeneration at Leverkusen. After all of what happened with Arsenal, and goodness me, the controversies like the throwing, the captain's armband, and all of that happened over the years, it feels like maybe this is it, right? He's showing this is his position in a team. This is how good he can be. He's laying it down and helping them go unbeaten in the league. Fair play. And the final nominee, Lamine Yamal. Is he one of the best 30 players in world football? Maybe not yet, but he's definitely going to be up there. Over the next few years, no one knows what his final ranking in the Ballon d'Or is going to be, but he is just going to go up and up and up and up and up. He is an extreme talent at such a young age, now 17. He was tearing it up when he was 16. He was doing well for Barca. Didn't get a mental amount of goal involvements compared to some of the other names on the list and how well they did in their respective leagues, but obviously turned it on massively for Spain as well, and him and Nico Williams on the wings were unstoppable. And without those two, maybe they wouldn't have won the Euros. So does that help push him onto this list? Absolutely. He is very clearly an emerging superstar. Does that mean that he should be on this list at this moment in time? I think that is very debatable. He is going to be potentially top 3 in this list within the next few years. And I think that that is very, very expected of him. So that's going to be amazing to watch. But he is the final nominee. And so many people have been questioning this list. Is the Ballon d'Or bad this year? Does anyone deserve to win it? Is this the worst list that we've seen? I don't think so. There are some questionable names, but that's always the case with these bizarrely voted for awards. You're going to have some names that just... How? Why? How did you get there? So it is questionable at times, and you've had people kick off with some of the players that are not in the list, namely Rodrigo, because he's talked about it, as have other Brazilians, and that's the biggest omission from the list, according to social media. So let me know your thoughts on this. Who do you think is going to win, and who do you think deserves to win? Are those two different answers? Because for me, they are. I think Rodri should win it, but I think Vini Jr. gets that Ballon d'Or. I mean, Rio Ferdinand would agree. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.